I used to believe my family was unbreakable. 5 brothers raised by a strong single mom, we stood together through everything life threw our way. Until Trevor, my oldest brother, crossed an unforgivable line by stealing Marcus's fiancée, Sophia. Now, Mom insists we must all forgive Trevor and attend their wedding. I am torn between loyalty to Marcus and respecting Mom's wishes. The ultimatum has fractured our once tight brotherhood. As I share this painful family betrayal, drop a comment telling me where you are watching from and if you would support a brother who stole your sibling's fiancée. Do not forget to subscribe to hear more family drama stories that will make yours seem normal. Growing up, our home was always filled with noise, laughter, and occasional fighting. 5 boys under one roof meant chaos was the norm rather than the exception. Trevor, my oldest brother at 32, always commanded respect and attention. He was ambitious, successful, and Mom's favorite, though she would never admit it. Marcus, the second oldest at 30, was Trevor's opposite in almost every way. Quiet, hardworking, and perpetually giving, Marcus would sacrifice anything for family harmony. Then there was me, Jarrett, 27, caught in the middle of this family dynamic. I prided myself on being the observer, the one who could read between the lines when no one else bothered to look. My younger brothers, Logan and Dominic, 25 and 23 respectively, rounded out our quintet. Our father passed away when Dominic was only 3, leaving Mom to raise 5 rowdy boys on her own. Her primary goal became keeping us united, often repeating her mantra, that family comes before everything else. Despite our differences, we shared countless memories that bonded us together. Camping trips where Trevor would lead expeditions into the woods, basketball games in the driveway that almost always ended with Marcus letting Trevor win to avoid an argument. Family dinners, where Mom made us each share something good that happened that day, even on our worst days. But there was always this pattern with Trevor that I noticed from a young age. He had a habit of wanting what others had, especially if it belonged to Marcus. When we were kids, if Marcus got a new toy, Trevor suddenly needed to play with it. In high school, if Marcus made the honor roll, Trevor would push himself twice as hard to get higher grades. Even when Marcus got his first car, a beaten-up Honda that he saved for by working 2 jobs, Trevor borrowed it so often it practically became his until he could afford something better. And Marcus, being Marcus, always gave in. He would smile and say, "That is just how Trevor is," as if his perpetual sacrifice was simply the natural order of things. I often wondered if Marcus resented Trevor, but if he did, he never showed it. Their relationship seemed to work in its own dysfunctional way until Sophia entered the picture. Marcus met Sophia at a bookstore 3 years ago. He was shopping for Mom's birthday when he literally bumped into Sophia, causing her to drop her stack of medical textbooks. Sophia was studying to become a pediatrician, her warm personality perfectly complementing her career choice. She was intelligent, compassionate, and brought out a confidence in Marcus I had never seen before. For 3 years, they built a relationship that seemed unshakable. They complemented each other perfectly. Where Marcus was reserved, Sophia drew him out of his shell. Where Sophia sometimes doubted herself, Marcus was her rock. They planned their future together, talking about the house they would buy, even picking out names for their future children. When Marcus finally proposed, it was with a ring that took him a year to save for. He asked her on the rooftop of the bookstore where they first met, which he had decorated with hundreds of fairy lights and photos documenting their relationship. The engagement party was at our mother's house, with all 5 brothers and close family friends in attendance. It should have been the happiest day for Marcus, but looking back, I can now see the warning signs that were already present. Trevor showed up late to the engagement party, making a grand entrance as always. He hugged Sophia a little too long, his eyes lingering on her in a way that made me uncomfortable. Throughout the evening, I noticed him gravitating toward her whenever Marcus was occupied with other guests. At first, I dismissed it as Trevor being his usual charismatic self, the brother who charmed everyone in the room. But as the weeks passed, Trevor became a constant presence whenever Sophia was around. He started showing up at family dinners he would normally skip. He offered to help with wedding planning, something completely out of character for him. He would text Sophia directly about family events instead of going through Marcus. Most concerning was how Sophia responded. Initially, she seemed merely polite, but gradually she began to laugh more at Trevor's jokes. She would mention him in conversation with Marcus. She would text him back immediately, while sometimes leaving Marcus waiting for a response. I wanted to believe I was reading too much into innocent interactions. After all, they were going to be family soon. Wasn't it good that they got along? But deep down, a sense of foreboding grew within me, a feeling I tried to ignore for Marcus's sake. Then came the moment I could no longer deny something was wrong. During the engagement dinner at an upscale restaurant downtown, I stepped outside for some air and found Trevor and Sophia standing close together on the terrace. They were not touching, but the electricity between them was palpable. When Sophia laughed at something Trevor said, the look they exchanged made my stomach drop. It was not the look of a future sister-in-law and brother-in-law. It was the look of two people sharing a secret, intimate moment that no one else was supposed to see. As I quietly stepped back inside, I realized that for the first time in my life, I was genuinely afraid for my brother's happiness. The suspicions that had been lurking in the back of my mind grew stronger when I visited Marcus at his apartment one evening. He had stepped into the shower, and his phone kept buzzing on the coffee table. Normally, I would never check someone else's messages, but something compelled me to glance at the screen. What I saw made my blood run cold. Multiple notifications from Trevor with preview texts that seemed far too intimate for a soon-to-be brother-in-law. When I confronted Marcus later that night, he brushed it off. Trevor is just helping with some wedding details, he said, but I could see uncertainty flickering behind his eyes. He had always trusted Trevor, despite everything. And breaking that trust meant admitting a truth too painful to face. Over the next few weeks, the evidence became harder to ignore. Trevor and Sophia were spending time together without Marcus. Late-night phone calls that Sophia would take outside on the balcony. Texts that Sophia would quickly hide when Marcus entered the room. Unexplained absences where neither Trevor nor Sophia could be reached. I agonized over what to do. Should I tell Marcus what I suspected, potentially destroying his relationship and fracturing our family, or should I stay silent, allowing him to walk blindly into what might be the biggest mistake of his life? The weight of this decision kept me awake at night. I finally decided to talk to my younger brothers, Logan and Dominic. We met at a bar far from our usual hangouts to ensure privacy. When I shared my suspicions, both were initially shocked into silence. "Are you absolutely certain?" Logan finally asked, his voice tight with concern. "This would destroy Marcus. Not to mention what it would do to Mom." Dominic added, running his hands through his hair. "She already puts Trevor on a pedestal. If he broke up Marcus's engagement, she would probably still find a way to defend him." After hours of discussion, we reached a painful consensus. Marcus deserved to know the truth, regardless of the fallout. As the middle brother, I volunteered to be the messenger. I invited Marcus fishing, an activity we had enjoyed together since childhood. As we sat in silence watching our lines, I carefully broached the subject. "Have you noticed anything different about Sophia lately?" His immediate defensive reaction told me everything I needed to know. He already suspected something, but had been denying it to himself. When I gently shared what I had observed along with Logan and Dominic's concerns, Marcus first responded with anger. He accused me of jealousy, of trying to ruin his happiness. But beneath his anger, I could see the pain of recognition. "Just watch them together," I suggested. "Really watch." A week later, Marcus called me at 2 a.m. His voice was hollow as he told me he had followed Sophia after she claimed to be meeting a colleague for dinner. Instead, he found her meeting Trevor at an upscale restaurant across town. He watched through the window as they held hands across the table, and later as they kissed in Trevor's car. "I saw it with my own eyes, Jarrett," he whispered, his voice breaking. "My brother and the woman I was going to marry." The confrontation that followed was as explosive as it was inevitable. Marcus waited until both Trevor and Sophia were at our mother's house for Sunday dinner before laying his cards on the table. Mom and the rest of us watched in horror as Marcus calmly described what he had seen. Sophia broke down in tears, alternating between apologies and accusations that Marcus had been emotionally distant. Trevor, rather than showing any remorse, straightened his shoulders and announced that he and Sophia had developed real feelings for each other. "These things happen," Trevor said, as if he were describing a minor inconvenience rather than a life-altering betrayal. "You cannot control who you fall in love with. You could control whether you act on it." I snapped back, unable to contain my disgust. "Especially when it is your own brother's fiancée." The room erupted into chaos. Logan and Dominic stood firmly by Marcus, their faces flushed with anger. Trevor and Sophia clung to each other, as if their newfound love justified any pain they had caused. And in the middle of it all was our mother, her face ashen as she witnessed her greatest fear coming true, her family falling apart. "We need to calm down," Mom pleaded, attempting to mediate. "Family is everything. We can work through this, but some betrayals cut too deep for quick reconciliation." Marcus walked out that night, followed by me, Logan, and Dominic, leaving Trevor, Sophia, and our mother alone in the house that had once symbolized our unity. The engagement was officially called off the next day. Sophia returned the ring through a mutual friend, unable to face Marcus directly. Marcus retreated into himself, barely eating, rarely leaving his apartment. I took time off work to stay with him, afraid of what he might do in his darkest moments. A month later, Trevor and Sophia publicly announced they were dating. The news spread quickly through family and friends, with reactions ranging from shock to disgust. Our extended family largely rallied around Marcus, with uncles and cousins refusing to speak to Trevor. Neighbors who had watched us grow up expressed their disappointment. Even Trevor's longtime friends questioned his actions. Throughout it all, Marcus sank deeper into depression. The brother who had always been resilient, who had weathered every storm with quiet dignity, now seemed broken beyond repair. And as I watched him suffer, my anger toward Trevor and disappointment in our mother, who still tried to justify Trevor's actions, grew stronger by the day. 6 months after the affair came to light, the bomb dropped. Elegant cream-colored envelopes arrived at each of our homes. Inside was a wedding invitation adorned with gold lettering. Trevor and Sophia requested the honor of our presence at their wedding to be held at an exclusive vineyard just outside the city. The date was circled in red on the calendar, a glaring reminder of Trevor's complete lack of remorse. When I called Marcus after receiving my invitation, he laughed bitterly. "Trevor always did like to take what is mine and make it better," he said, referring to the lavish venue that far outshone what he and Sophia had planned. The invitation felt like salt in an open wound, a deliberate reminder of Trevor's victory and Marcus's loss. Logan and Dominic called next, both furious. "Is he serious? Does he actually think any of us would attend?" Dominic demanded. Before we could formulate a unified response, Mom called an emergency family meeting. She insisted that all brothers attend, including Trevor. The tension in her living room that Sunday was thick enough to cut with a knife. Trevor sat on one side with Sophia beside him, while Marcus, myself, Logan, and Dominic clustered together on the opposite side. Mom stood in the middle, physically embodying her role as mediator. "I have asked you all here because we need to resolve this situation," Mom began, her voice strained but determined. "The wedding is happening, and as a family we need to accept that." "Accept what?" I interrupted, unable to contain myself. "That Trevor betrayed his own brother. That Sophia threw away a 3-year relationship for what? A upgrade to the more successful brother." Trevor's face darkened with anger. "You do not understand what Sophia and I have. What we feel for each other is real." So was what she felt for Marcus. Logan shot back, until something better came along. Mom raised her hands for silence. "What is done is done. We cannot change the past, but we can decide how we move forward. And I am telling you now that I expect all of you to attend this wedding and support your brother." The room fell silent as the magnitude of her request sank in. She was not merely asking us to forgive Trevor. She was demanding that we celebrate his relationship, built as it was on the ruins of Marcus's happiness. Marcus, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. "You cannot be serious, Mom. You are asking me to watch the woman I plan to spend my life with, marry my own brother, to smile and congratulate them." Mom's expression softened as she turned to Marcus. "I know it hurts now, sweetheart, but family must come first. Trevor is still your brother. Someday you will meet someone else. Start your own family." Do you want to do that with this rift between you and Trevor? This is not just a rift, I interjected. Trevor did not borrow Marcus's car without asking. He took his fiancée. Mom's face hardened. I have made my decision. This family will not be divided. Either you all attend this wedding and begin the process of forgiveness, or you will force me to choose, and I will not choose division. The implications of her ultimatum hung heavy in the air. She was threatening to side with Trevor if we did not comply. That is emotional blackmail, Dominic said quietly, always the most direct of us all. Mom turned to him, tears forming in her eyes. That is a mother trying to save her family. I raised you all to stick together no matter what. No matter what. I stood up feeling a surge of protective rage on behalf of Marcus. There have to be limits, Mom. There have to be consequences for actions like this. If Trevor can betray Marcus in the worst possible way and still get your unconditional support, what message does that send? That you can hurt people as deeply as you want, and they should just forgive you because you share blood. Trevor rose to face me, his height advantage, allowing him to look down at me physically, as he always had figuratively. You have always been jealous of me, Jarrett. All of you have. Sophia chose me because she realized I could give her the life she deserves. I refused to back down. She chose you because you deliberately pursued her, knowing exactly what it would do to Marcus. And now you expect us to pretend it never happened. I expect you to respect our mother's wishes. Trevor replied coldly. Unless you want to be cut off from the family entirely. Mom nodded in agreement with Trevor. I will not have my sons divided. Anyone who refuses to attend this wedding is choosing to separate themselves from this family. The ultimatum hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Attend the wedding and betray Marcus, or refuse and be disowned by our own mother. As I looked around at my brothers, I could see the same thoughts racing through their minds. The choice before us was impossible, yet inevitable. Before leaving, I took Mom aside, making one last attempt to reason with her. Mom, please think about what you are asking. This is not about forgiveness. This is about enabling Trevor's worst impulses, as we have always done. If we attend this wedding, we are telling him that there are no boundaries he cannot cross. Her response chilled me to the bone. You will be at that wedding, Jarrett, or you will no longer be welcome in my home. The same goes for your brothers. I have lost enough already. I will not lose my family over this. As I drove home that night, I realized that in her determination to keep the family together at any cost, Mom was ensuring its destruction in all the ways that truly mattered. The morning of Trevor and Sophia's wedding dawned bright and clear, the perfect day for a ceremony that would celebrate the union of two people who had found love at the expense of someone else's heart. But instead of putting on the suit that hung unworn in my closet, I threw camping gear into my car and drove to Marcus's apartment. He answered the door, looking better than he had in months. The dark circles under his eyes had faded, and he had finally gotten a haircut. Ready, he asked, a small, genuine smile playing at his lips. Logan and Dominic were already waiting in the parking lot, their own cars packed with tents, sleeping bags, and enough food to last us the weekend. Without discussion, we had all made the same choice. Instead of attending the wedding, we would spend the day at our father's favorite camping spot, a tradition we had maintained after his death, but had neglected in recent years. As we set up our campsite by the lake, my phone buzzed repeatedly with messages from Mom. Each one grew progressively angrier, culminating in a final text that made my heart sink. You have made your choice. Do not expect to be welcomed back until you apologize to Trevor and Sophia. I showed the message to my brothers. Marcus placed a hand on my shoulder. You did not have to do this for me, he said quietly. We did not do it for you, Logan replied, skipping a stone across the lake's surface. We did it because it was right. That night, sitting around the campfire, I felt a complex mix of emotions. Pain at being rejected by our own mother. Anger at Trevor's selfishness and Sophia's callousness. But underneath it all was a sense of peace. The certainty that comes from knowing you have stood by your principles, even when it cost you dearly. The fallout was as severe as Mom had promised. For 2 months, she refused our calls and returned our letters unopened. Trevor, emboldened by Mom's support, sent a group text informing us that our wedding gift, a photo album containing pictures from his relationship with Sophia, was childish and pathetic. Apparently, someone had anonymously sent them Marcus and Sophia's engagement photos compiled into a beautiful book titled Memories of True Love. The three of us denied responsibility, but Marcus's slight smile told me all I needed to know about the mysterious gift giver. The tension reached its peak when Thanksgiving approached. For the first time in our lives, we faced the prospect of spending the holiday apart. Mom extended an olive branch in the form of an invitation, but with a condition: we would need to apologize to Trevor and Sophia before being welcomed back. "I cannot do it," Marcus told me over the phone. "Not even for Mom. None of us can," I assured him. Instead, we planned our own celebration at my apartment. A brothers-only Thanksgiving that, despite the circumstances, turned out to be filled with more genuine laughter than our family gatherings had seen in years. Then came the first crack in Trevor's perfect facade. Logan, who worked at the same company as one of Sophia's friends, brought home an interesting piece of gossip. Apparently, Trevor and Sophia had been fighting constantly. Trevor had found text messages between Sophia and a male colleague that were just a little too friendly. History repeats itself. Dominic remarked without sympathy when we heard the news. A week later, Mom called me, her voice softer than it had been in months. "Can we talk?" she asked. "Just you and me." We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. Mom looked older, the strain of the past months evident in the new lines around her eyes. For a long time, we sat in awkward silence, neither knowing how to bridge the chasm between us. Finally, Mom spoke. "I may have been wrong," she admitted. The words clearly difficult for her to say. "Not about wanting the family together," she quickly added, "but about how to make that happen." It was a small concession, but from a woman as proud as our mother, it was monumental. She explained that she had recently witnessed an argument between Trevor and Sophia that had opened her eyes to the dynamics of their relationship. "They do not trust each other," she said sadly. "How could they?" "Their relationship began with betrayal." I took her hand across the table. "Mom, we all want the same thing. A whole, healthy family. But sometimes that means establishing boundaries, not erasing them. Sometimes it means holding people accountable when they hurt others." Tears filled her eyes. "I was so afraid of losing any of you that I almost lost all of you." Over the following weeks, a careful reconciliation began. Mom reached out to Marcus, apologizing for invalidating his pain. She visited Logan and Dominic, bringing their favorite childhood desserts as peace offerings. She did not ask us again to reconcile with Trevor, finally understanding that some bridges take much longer to rebuild, if they can be rebuilt at all. As for Marcus, he had started dating again. Her name was Alicia, a kindergarten teacher he met through a volunteer program. She was different from Sophia in every way that mattered, treating Marcus with a respect and admiration that made me realize how much had been missing from his relationship with Sophia. Trevor and Sophia's marriage continued to show cracks. Trevor called me one night drunk and melancholy, admitting that things were complicated. I listened without offering the absolution he seemed to be seeking. Some lessons need to be learned the hard way. In the year that followed, our family found a new normal. Sunday dinners resumed, though Trevor rarely attended. When he did, the conversation was stilted but civil. Marcus brought Alicia, whose warmth and genuine nature gradually won over even our guarded mother. I learned valuable lessons through this painful chapter. That true family is defined not by blind loyalty, but by mutual respect. That forgiveness cannot be demanded, only earned through genuine remorse and changed behavior. That sometimes standing your ground, even when it costs you dearly, is the only way to maintain your integrity. Looking back, I now see that our family did not break. It transformed. The old dynamics, the unhealthy patterns, the unquestioned hierarchy with Trevor at the top, all gave way to something more authentic. We were no longer bound by obligation alone, but by a conscious choice to remain connected despite our differences. Trevor may someday understand the depth of his betrayal. Sophia might realize what she sacrificed for what glittered more brightly. Mom has already begun to recognize that unconditional love does not mean unconditional approval, and Marcus has found happiness that no one can take from him because it is built on a foundation of honesty. As for me, I no longer feel caught in the middle. I know where I stand and whom I stand with. Some might call it choosing sides. I call it choosing integrity. What would you do if faced with this impossible choice between family loyalty and moral principles? Have you ever had to stand up against a loved one when they were wrong? Share your story in the comments below. If this family drama resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support means everything as I continue sharing these difficult life lessons. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes the hardest choices lead to the greatest growth.